Whether you're coming to Florida to visit Disney or the beach, Hinson Photography specializes in vacation portraits for families and couples. A souvenir that you'll never forget. Visit www.hinsonphotography.com or call 386-478-8099 to learn more about booking vacation portraits with Hinson Photography. That's www.hinsonphotography.com. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Babu's Frickin' Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us in our galaxy far, far away. My name is Grand Moff Mark Valentine. As always, I am joined by the Jedi Council consisting of Brian Porkinsley. Brian, hello there.
Hello there.
I expected the hello, everyone.
No. That's the other one. That's the other one.
Deviated. Rounding out our Jedi Council is none other than Mike Chiatti Ruby. Mike, may the Force be with you.
And also with you.
We have a first. There's a lot of firsts here tonight, gentlemen. Our Jedi Council has grown exponentially. Joining our show for the first time, we have in-studio guests from Comics and Cinema Podcast. We are being joined by Alex Klein. Alex, welcome to Babu's Frickin' Podcast, my friend.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
We are excited to expand the Jedi Council. One of us is bound to betray us eventually and bring balance back to the Force. Also joining the show, one of our amazing Patreons, good friend of both Earth Mightiest Weirdos and now Babu's Frickin' Podcast. Want to welcome to the show Robert Klauser. Robert, welcome, my friend.
What's up, man? Appreciate y'all having me back on again.
Thank you, guys. Just a quick reminder, gentlemen, that this evening we're going to be talking about Visions. I'm sure that we can get into a little discussion about the big news that also broke today in the Star Wars universe with the announcement that the Book of Boba Fett now has an official start date. But we are going to be offering our review. So we'll try to... Visions is not really a spoilery type of show. So we're going to try to discuss as many components of Visions as we can and explain to you why you need Star Wars anime in your life. So we'll be talking about all 9 of the episodes that just aired last week on Star Wars Visions, offering our critique, talking about some of the stylistic components of the show, how it expands the Star Wars universe and the Force power specifically, and then giving a little bit of our own assessment on which ones worked for us and which ones maybe we're going to be passing on. Smash the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, hit the share if you're enjoying. And as always, you can find our podcast everywhere you can find podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Google. What am I forgetting, Brian?
Instagram.
Yes.
Just everywhere. This is life. Babu's Frickin' Podcast. We have the best name in Star Wars podcasting. I'm willing to say it.
I happen to agree with you. All right, guys. So let's get right into the content and let's talk about the big news that, did we all not freak out and geek out today at the arrival of the Book of Boba Fett? Did you not just stop dead in your tracks today with whatever you were doing? Let's just say the workload around the world amongst the Star Wars fan base suffered for at least 10 to 15 minutes after the news broke. Did we all not become the most unproductive community in the world?
For about 7 minutes, I just perused the internet, making sure there was no trailer to go with the announcement.
No, just that JPEG of Boba Fett sitting like a boss in Jabba's throne.
So let's have a little fun with this now that we know the date that we're getting it. Let's go around the horn. Gentlemen, what is your one wish list item that you just want to see from the Book of Boba Fett? What do you want to see from our favorite Mandalorian in this December? Mike, why don't you start us off, man?
Not a Mandalorian.
Well, I'll start easy. I think that's the probably the most obvious thing, which is how the hell to get out of the Sarlacc. How do you escape thousands of years of digestion in the giant hole in the ground with teeth? So I'm excited to see how they are able to cleverly come up with a way that he's able to escape the Sarlacc pit. He obviously doesn't come out unscathed. We've seen that clearly he got into some of the digestive juices, if you will, with the scarring that we see in The Mandalorian. So let's see how he got out of the pit. Let's see how he lost the armor in the process. And then we'll find out hopefully a bit more about him from there. But that's got to be mystery number one, is how does our favorite Fett, probably most of our favorite Fets, get out of his sandy tomb?
Well, he's head and shoulders above Django. But
Oh, you're on a roll, just like Django's head.
a little decapitation humor. Facebook user agrees with you, Mike. I've never been happy with how Boba Fett died in the movie. He was supposed to be this awesome bounty hunter, and then he went out with no glory. Thankfully, The Mandalorian rectified a lot of that and gave us some badassery with his reintroduction to the show. That he started kicking some stormtrooper butt almost immediately, restoring our faith in what made him such a badass in the first place. Robert, what do you need to see, or what do you want to see from the Book of Boba Fett?
Yeah, just more action, man. Just like hopefully Robert Rodriguez is still doing more work on the show. Like that episode he did on Mandalorian was great. So hopefully more of that. Not him just standing around like in Empire and getting eaten by a Sarlacc in return. Like to see him do more stuff, you know?
Dude, I feel like Robert Rodriguez is another one of these amazing stewards of the franchise. Like, he gets it. He's a fan. He's a geek. So I feel like he really understands what we want, and that was the best kind of fan service.
Right.
So I am fully throwing, like, yes, Robert, you have my blessing. I love the work that you've done on other stuff. So please, like, just knock our socks off. I think you will. Alex, what do you need to see from Book of Boba Fett, my friend?
You know, with any Star Wars property, my first answer is always just Ahsoka. But I know that's asking a little too much for this. I think it would be maybe seeing some of the other clones, just because we saw them in Bad Batch, where we got to see like Rex and some of the older ones as well. I'd love to see them in live action again, because we haven't seen them since Revenge of the Sith.
We have a saying around here, which is, I don't hate it. I don't hate that idea at all. Brian, I kind of know where you're going to go with this.
We know where Brian's going.
I know where Brian's going. What do you need to say? No, well, let's say it first. Then
I genuinely don't know what you want me to say. The answer I want to know is, how did Bib Fortuna, 1, get so fat, and 2, survive to become the crime boss in the first place?
You're going to get the Bib Fortuna backstory that no one else wants.
Oh, no, I want it.
But if we're going to talk about Robert Rodriguez, like, go watch Disney Gallery, The Mandalorian for season 2, and we get him playing the guitar to Grogu, and Grogu just jamming out to it. But we get a great homemade action sequence between the stormtroopers and his kids. It's fantastic. But I genuinely don't know what you want the answer for me.
Okay, so what I thought your answer was going to be, which I saved for you, because I was going to let you say it and not me. I thought we were going to be in lockstep with what we want. You know who I want from this show, and that's Cad Bane. I want live action Cad Bane, and I want the duel that was left on the cutting room floor of the unpublished season of Clone Wars, where we have the Western-style standoff between Cad Bane and Boba Fett, where we get to see where the iconic dent comes in his helmet. Give it to me, please. Make it canon.
I don't want your armor. I want my armor.
Yeah, if we're going to get Cad Bane, give me Bosk. Give me the entire just bounty hunter crew.
They could do, the comics just did the War of the Bounty Hunters storyline that Charles Soule did. That would be cool to see, like a War of the Bounty Hunters would be awesome.
This feels like our first real opportunity to get Asajj Ventress as well in live action. I would be all for that.
Let's just keep it rolling, gentlemen. It's like, this is my wish list.
Well, it's bounty hunters. You said it best in our bounty hunter episode, Mark. There's no ruckus without Forlom and Zuckus.
Absolutely. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. So
this is the way.
Gentlemen, as a side note, I just finished watching, I don't know, probably for the 6th or 7th time, The Mandalorian, straight through season 1 through 2.
Wow.
Just binged, this weekend. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Why not? I'm sitting around. I have nothing to do for a few hours. Let's go. I can't wait. I cannot wait. That show has me hype. And what it was I was watching Visions. Whenever something new Star Wars comes out, it just then I just start rewatching everything over. And I'll watch something new that will then get me really excited or geeking out about an element of the Force or a Jedi power that then I'll go back to. Visions did that for me, and it really again rekindled everything that I love about Star Wars, but it was so different, guys. So let's get into Visions. Brian said it best on one of his episodes, just the last episode of United We Fan. I can't remember exactly how Mark put it to you, Brian. So, like, again, I'm apologizing if I'm paraphrasing, but Mark asked what your opinion of it was, but if you liked it or if it was going to grow the Star Wars fan base. And I think the way that you put it was if you like anime or you like Star Wars, you'll like Visions, but the show itself may not be growing or reaching any new people per se.
I would expect the overlap, the Venn diagram of anime fans and Star Wars fans to have a very large overlap. I can see a very small number of people, of anime fans specifically, not liking Star Wars, but I would expect a large majority of them to like Star Wars. It just kind of seems to have a lot of overlap there. I think it's going to introduce a lot of Star Wars fans to the world of anime rather than vice versa. I would anticipate most anime fans have already seen Star Wars and like it. So I don't know how much it's going to grow the world of Star Wars so much, because if you don't like either one of them, this isn't going to be the first one you're going to try.
I agree.
You'll try the child, the baby Yoda.
I mean, there's a lot of like the younger generation that's getting back into anime, like old stuff like One Piece and Hero Academia and all that stuff. Like this could be bringing like a younger generation up to Star Wars, because you've got these different anime houses that did all these shorts that a lot of like younger kids know. You know, like okay, you guys watch Batman Ninja? That's the Duel. That's the studio that did the Duel. And then you got Production IG, which did stuff like Ghost in the Shell. They did the Ninth Jedi. So I think it's kind of like a give and take. It's not just like, okay, Star Wars fans getting introduced to anime. It's kids that like stuff like Dragon Ball, stuff like you watch the Twins. That's pretty much like OP, Dragon Ball, Shonen Jump type anime where everybody's like, you know, they're in space without any damn helmets and they're freaking going through hyperspace, cutting the cutting the Death Star. I mean, not Death Star, but it's the Star Destroyer in half.
So during
during
Disney Investor Day last year, they said Star Wars Visions was some of the top anime companies in the world, and that was not a lie. Then I don't know these companies well enough to know how reputable these anime companies are, but what you're saying, Robert, is they're literally the top of the game.
Some of them, yeah. Like, some of them I don't know, but like I know some of them from like stuff that I've watched in the past.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
The one critique, guys, that we try to stay as non-toxic as we can here. That was the founding principle of Bobby's Frickin' Podcast, was no matter how we felt about something, whether we liked it or we didn't, that we would allow the discussion to just be thought-provoking and open. And, you know, like the Last Jedi episode was the perfect sort of example of that. Something that has really polarized the community. We tried to approach from a very logical standpoint to say, let's discuss these film components in an adult manner and like keep our minds open to maybe change our minds as the panel discussed it. The one thing that really frustrated me was, I mean, you saw this almost immediately, and I don't know if it was the Star Wars community or who in the Star Wars community, if anyone wants to jump in on this and kind of feel this, but there were people who were like, I don't know if I like it. It's too much of Japanese animation for me to like. There's too many cultural things just like crammed into Star Wars. And I'm going to tell, like, I kind of freaked out about that, but I don't want me to soapboxes. If anyone wants to jump on that, feel free. Go ahead.
The whole concept of a Jedi is inspired by a samurai. So come on with that. Come on, man.
You look at all these, and you know that's what Lucas said to begin with, was like,
Right.
you know, a lot of these were modeled after Kurosawa movies, and
Yeah.
you're starting to see that, especially with the Duel, is like straight out of like Yojimbo basically. And to say that is just so strange. It's almost like looking for something to not like, but it's like they're honoring Star Wars while also honoring what Star Wars was honoring by honoring all of it. Like
what
it's
inspired
literally
it.
the
Yep.
perfect meld. Like if this had been created in a perfect, bubble, this is what we would have gotten as live action originally for like the first Star Wars movie would have been like the Duel. And everyone would have loved it and thought it was awesome. But that is I've never heard anyone say anything about that. So that's curious.
No.
Yeah, it was so crazy. The first 2 days after I waded into social media, it was a lot of Facebook and TikTok was the critique was it was too ethnic and it was too Japanese. And my clapback was, have you not watched Star Wars before?
Mhm.
This is the philosophy of Star Wars at its purest form, going back to almost the building block of where it came from, which is Kurosawa, the Shogun, the samurai. The Jedi are very reminiscent of that philosophy. I mean, there's so much of the Tao that is just infused in the concept of the Force, of these equal and opposite forces at work at always in the universe, balancing the universe out. And like the Asian influence has always been a part of the lore of Star Wars. Like, are you not watching? So it really frustrated me. Mike, did you see any of this toxicity or
I didn't. I tried to stay away from any of the reading any of the responses because I knew it was going to take me a little while to get into these. I had a lot going on over the past week, and so I didn't actually finish all the episodes until this morning when I knew we were getting together. So I didn't see any of that coming back. I'm curious to take a look now. I agree with you guys. I think that's all just trash. And anybody who's putting out there, they're looking for reasons to troll, and they clearly have not been paying attention when Darth Vader is a samurai.
Pretty much.
It's just totally foolish. I think for me, I just think this series was not my cup of spatchka. Like
Okay.
I tried, and I tried in the immortal words of Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction. I tried real hard to be the shepherd. Like I really, really wanted to like this.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of the episodes that I got into, but I think Mark, you and I talked a little bit out offline about this. Like they kind of fell short of the concept for me. Again, not being toxic, I think there's some wonderful things, but if the concept was here's 9 totally original stories, more than half of them didn't actually have endings. They were like pilot episodes for the ongoing adventures of Space Princess and her sister Rabbit. It was like I really was hoping for nice, fully formed, short narrative stories that you could just really be like, yeah, I'm not going to love every chapter, but like, wow, I really loved the story that told. And they never really got past kind of the idea of being concepts for me. And so I really struggled trying to watch my way through all of these. And I figured maybe it's because I'm not the biggest anime fan. But then when I pushed harder, I was like, I just don't think that the writing was very good. I think the animation was very good. And I think that the concept of it was very good. But I was like, you didn't hook me, guys.
Yeah.
And gals.
I think that's actually what got me to like it more was it was 7 different studios fresh take of what their thinking was, and everybody had what they were viewing it as kind of their one chance to do Star Wars, for lack of a better term. And that's why in like 6 of the episodes there was I've got a bad feeling about this, because everybody knows that it belongs in Star Wars and it was their one chance to make that content. I'm glad, because I really, really liked about half the show. About the other half, 3 or 4 episodes, I could have done without. But I think that's what made me keep going was, well, hey, if I didn't like this one, I'm not invested hours into this one because it's Star Wars content. I'm going to consume it, whether I really, really like it or whether I don't. So for me, I don't know if criticism is the right word, but I thought about it the same way Ruby did, but that's what actually made me enjoy it more than I think I expected to.
One of the things that, to echo that or just to continue that thought, for the ones that I didn't enjoy fully, Brian, I literally invested about 15, maybe 18 minutes of my life tops, so that I didn't feel like my time and my energy was robbed with some of the narratives that they didn't resonate with me. I didn't feel like it was a waste of my time because they were shorts. Did any of you, and I want to talk about the format specifically, did any of you get the feeling with this that there was like an audition for, let's just say, like, here's the pilot or the concept? Because I felt like some of these were tailor made to like pitch Lucasfilm to say, pick this up, pick this show up. And there
I
were
don't
like 3 in particular that I was like, ooh.
I felt like that with the Duel and Ninth Jedi, and probably. And I know Brian, you don't like it too much, but TOB1. So maybe.
Oh no.
No, I thought so, and I thought it was a setup with Lop and Ocho too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robert, what you call TOB1, I call Pinocchio B1.
Pinocchio in space, but I'm a real Jedi.
Mhm.
I don't remember who it was. There was you guys probably know better than me, but somebody pitched something to Marvel, and they were like, it might have been Chloe Zhao, but they were like, oh, we pitched them, and they said don't bring anything, and they ended up bringing their entire presentation anyway, and that's what got them the job. And I think this is kind of a similar thing where Disney was like, we want to do this, come up with 15 minutes of content, but every single one of those studios was saying we need to come up with something that's so good that they want to call us and bring us back to do a full season for something. Like, let's write so that we do come back. So I don't think they were asked to do it, but you can tell that some of them were like, yeah, we've got a good idea here, and let's see if they take the bait.
The one thing I really liked, gentlemen, was regardless of what studio made the short, there was a very clear common thread throughout all of them. It seemed like the lightsaber was the common cultural component of Star Wars, that regardless of if it featured a droid, if it featured, like a rock band, that there was always a lightsaber component to the story itself. This was one of my favorite elements of it, that I felt like the mythos of the Jedi was expanded beyond what we already know from the Skywalker saga, that we were introduced to new force powers and force abilities, but also the lightsaber styles. Like, I geeked out over the katana blade yellow lightsaber in
Oh man, that one was
Village Bride.
in the Village Bride, yeah.
That one was so cool.
Yeah.
So your take on the things that connected the series. What were the things that you just liked holistically? For me, it was that I liked the mythos of the Jedi, like really just being on full display. And I liked, more so than the Jedi, I liked the complexities they offered to the Sith. And it seemed like the Sith were in playing center stage with most of these narratives, more so than the Jedi. It was really cool to see them on full display. Mike?
Yeah, I think I would agree. I liked seeing the different Jedi fighting styles that came out. I liked that you could feel a sense of joy in all of these, even if you didn't like what was going on. You could definitely feel that whatever genre of anime they were going to go with, their style of anime, that whoever made it just really embraced it and said, I'm going all in on Pokemon style. I'm going all in on Dragon Ball Z or Avatar style. Like, they went I'm going all the way in on Akira style. Like, they went all the way through. I thought that was exciting. I liked that they took advantage of the fact that it's animation and created different and interesting characters. Like, I thought there were a lot of humans for something that was Star Wars. I thought we didn't get a lot of creatures, but I thought we got a lot of interesting aliens. Like, I like the almost Wookiee-ish guy, the kind of Thundercats guy from Ninth Jedi.
Yeah.
I thought that it was going to be bizarre with Lop and Ocho. I actually loved Lop. I thought that was super fun. I liked the droids. I liked who knew that we were going to get a hut. I liked the Rockstar hut. I thought that was pretty awesome.
I'll take that. Episode was amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. Well, and his the actor's name is escaping me who did the voice. He was on SNL for a number of years, and
Bobby Moynihan.
Yeah, Bobby Moynihan. I mean, Bobby Moynihan, like, he kills me as Panda and We Bare Bears. Like, he's gold doing voiceover. So I liked all that. I think if there's one thread that fell through and that I didn't like, if I have to give my one hot take, is couldn't they have done a better job with the opening theme? Like it was.
But
It
you
was.
didn't
It
like
was.
just the lightsaber ignition and like
No,
ominous
it
tone?
was like we're gonna pay the studios to do all this amazing animation, and then we're gonna give you like if a high schooler made an intro for your Star Wars show.
It was like forgetting Sarah Marshall. I just make ominous tones. Bum, bum.
Yeah,
Lightsaber.
it was like we're spending all our money on the Mandalorian. Give the intern the Visions intro.
Brian, a common theme holistically before we dive into specific episodes, something that you just really enjoyed that an overarching thing from one series to another.
For me, it was the lightsaber, like you talked about. But for me, it was even more intricate than that. It was the kyber crystal, and I nerd out over the kyber crystal. The fact that became such a main point of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge when it came out with the holocrons and Savvy's lightsabers and everything. The kyber crystal and how, especially in the Ninth Jedi, how they show their allegiance, they change the color. They can even change color while they're fighting, like stuff like that. The mythos of the kyber crystal specifically was really cool, that it could power that entire cannon on that twin Star Destroyer to blow up a planet. Like all those kinds of things was really, really cool. The heart of the lightsaber is the kyber crystal, and how intricate it was to the rest of the storytelling, I thought was really, really neat.
Bravo. Well said. Robert, anything that overarching that really impressed you?
I know me, Brian, and Alex have talked about this a lot a while back, but like the complexity of the Sith. That's like you were talking about earlier. Like they're not all power hungry. They're not trying to take over the galaxy or bring order. They just like dabble in the dark arts. You know, they have some kind of flaws about them. They're not completely evil. Like you see that with the Ronin in the duel. He's just, you know, he still has good qualities. He just like dabbles in the dark arts. He goes about things not in the,
I want to talk about that later. Remind me, I want to talk about that later.
But he goes about things in not so honorable way. Like he still has good qualities. And even like the last episode, I forget the name, but I didn't like it so much. But like this, it's the same thing. Like the guy's just trying to save, you know, his princess or whoever she is.
Yeah.
You know, he you know, succumbs to the dark side for one purpose. It's not all out full on corruption, you know.
Yeah.
There's
Episode 9 was
intricacies to these Sith, where they're not really Sith. I guess like dark side Force users,
yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Akakiri, I think, was the name of the
Akakiri.
episode.
Oh yeah, and what's the other one? With David Harbour.
The Elder.
The Elder. Yeah, it's the same thing. That guy just wants a good fight. He's not like trying to take over anything. He just, you know,
he's Dark Doctor.
He was amazing.
Yeah,
dude. That was one of my favorite components from the Elder was the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
The dual wielding, like this ancient Sith who, in the midst of combat, while he's getting defeated, is kind of like still talking. You know what? Mm-hmm. If I were younger, I could take you out. I was like, this is amazing right now.
He just wants a good fight. He's not trying to be all, you know.
He's on like this galactic quest to just fight, to kill people.
Super Smash Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Alex, anything before we get into the specifics, just overarching thing that really just stood out that you loved?
Yeah, the lightsabers were, but I'd say real quick that just the anime tropes and the way that they were able to weave them into Star Wars lore. So you've got like with the lightsabers, the fact that most samurai and in that culture, swords are so respected, and so you see them carrying a reverence for the sword in every episode, where they're just slowly sheathing it or pulling it out with care. But then you get like the episodes where they're going, "I'm gonna do my best," and it's like that's literally from anime, or the one where you've got like the Rock Show, which is like from the school festival in My Hero. So they're able to like tie these anime tropes to Star Wars, and it makes so much sense because again, it's like they're honoring each other. It was just so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if I didn't like the show, I've watched it in its entirety. I've done 2 viewings, and the episodes that I really loved, one I watched 4 times because I just loved it so much. The Ninth Jedi, I just watched that one so much. And we'll talk about this later, but we'll have a chance to make our plea to the Star Wars gods to say, like, please give me this one in perpetuity. I need this one, and we'll get to that later on. But guys, let's get right into it and kind of break these down episode by episode, getting some reactions and some style things that we liked, or just commenting on the narrative or, you know, what worked. and maybe even a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Anthony asked us, when he listens tomorrow to this in an audio version, which again, we're available on everywhere you can find your podcast, to kind of give him a top 3 consensus that, we can send our viewers who may not have seen all of Visions or are worried about delving into the world of anime, kind of a cheat sheet to say, here's what was good, here's what was bad, or here are the ones that, like, if you were a fan of Star Wars, you have to do, regardless of how you feel about anime. So let's get into the duel. I know that Robert, you said, and Alex said this was your favorite one, that
Yeah.
you guys really enjoyed this one. So the duel is essentially, and again, it's one of those tropes. You have a wandering stranger who has a mysterious past. He's defending a village from powerful bandits, and then during the epic battle, his real past and his real destiny is revealed, and it was a shocking moment. So let's talk about the episode style wise first. The black and white guys really
Yeah.
worked for me.
Mhm.
Super effective, save for the laser beams and the lightsaber blades. Everything else was black and white. It was almost like it was sketch art, as if it, forgive me for being so simplistic. It was like, take on me, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got the film grain, just like those old samurai movies too. Like if you look close enough, you can see like the little hairs and stuff, and the little blips and dust and stuff in the film. Like it's really good. Like they really mimic like these old timey like samurai movies.
It is what the animation of this one is what prevents it from being my favorite. I'm going to be completely honest.
That's fair.
Just the lights being the only thing in color. It's the only thing that makes it my second favorite. Other than that, I didn't love the animation. I picked up on what Robert was talking about, like the specs and everything. It just wasn't for me.
Mike?
It was what I expected. I mean, I think this was a good first episode because I feel like it set the tone really well. It had a very, it had a very Japanese feeling to it. It had the sense of humor. It had the sense of honor with the battles. It felt like the classic samurai story, but it also had some really great Star Wars twists, like the droid with the bamboo hat, and like the stormtroopers popping in there, and probably one of the most iconic visuals that came out of all the trailers. It had the villain with the weird multi-pronged umbrella that made the lightsaber turn
Sith
into
Mary Poppins, y'all.
Sith Mary Poppins, y'all. I mean, spoonful of lightsaber helps the medicine go down. Like it was cool.
But this showed you that Lucasfilm knew what they had. They were very strategic with putting this one first and putting the Ninth Jedi right in the middle, because they got you hooked immediately, and then they kept you going by the time you might have lost steam in the middle of it. So they knew what their top two were, and they got it off. I loved the umbrella. Like, I thought it was really, really cool. When he pulled out, Mark, you talked about it, when he pulled out that red lightsaber, you're like, oh crap. Like,
I did.
But Robert brought this up earlier, and this is what I'd like to jump to the end of the episode if I can. Robert, I wasn't positive he was a Sith. Like, none of this is officially canon, so they can play with the mythos however they wanted to. In this one, I just saw it as the same reason Anakin fought with a blue lightsaber at the end of Revenge of the Sith episode 3, where it hadn't changed color yet because he didn't make the kyber crystal bleed. Like, I just assumed he was going out killing Sith and then taking the kyber crystals. Were you under the influence he was operating through the dark side of the Force?
I was that at first, but after a second rewatch, he freaking uses the Force to catch the antagonist's blade in his hands. So at first I thought he was just like a Ronin going around taking out Sith and keeping their kyber crystals, but after the rewatch I saw him do that, use the Force. So I'm like, okay, so he must be, if not a Sith, then like maybe an acolyte or
something dark side. I guess I watch it with that mentality.
Yeah.
So what about this though, gentlemen? And again, anyone who wants to jump in to this follow-up question, it's really just here to spur some discussion. What if he's not a dark side user in that same respect, where he's not a Sith, but in order to defeat his enemy, the way in which he has to defeat the enemy, he does have to channel the dark side.
Right.
It's the only because Jedi are not, they're supposed to be defensive minded, save for Mace Windu, who channels the dark side mildly, hence his purple saber, which is a mixture of the red and the blue. In order to defeat these Sith so handily, he has to embrace that dark side and strike down his opponent sometimes in anger in order to win the duel. That's how I read it. Am I wrong or
No, I like that. That's what I'm saying. There's complexities to these guys. It's not just like good and bad. And I like that gray area, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I
go
think
ahead.
he's got to be dark side all the way. I mean, it's again, if you look at Western tropes, which Star Wars is a mixture of samurai and Western in a lot of respects. You know, Clint Eastwood's characters in most of his movies, he's not a good dude. He's morally, he's not just morally ambiguous. Like, he's a killer.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the whole fistful of dollars, good, bad, and the ugly, all the way up to Unforgiven. He's a stone cold killer, and he's not apologetic for it. And so I was a nice surprise, but looking back on it, it makes all the sense in the world that, like, maybe he's not, to your point earlier, maybe he's not out to take over the universe and power hungry the way the Sith is, but this is not a good guy.
I like that. And to your point, Mike, like, he doesn't step in until the Mary Poppins comes out. He doesn't do anything. This whole thing, like, the villagers, the raiders come in and they're fighting and everything. He doesn't step in until she, deflects a bolt blast and it blows up that tea shop. He doesn't do anything at all. He's just watching. So yeah, you're right.
Even when it drove right past him, he knew what was in it.
Mm-hmm.
To the earlier point, they knew the order that they wanted. This was perfectly placed as the first episode of the series. I felt like the creators knew which episodes to put where. I can't complain as to where anything came in the order. I don't quite understand why that last episode was the last episode. I thought it was a little weak for the end of the series to end on that note. But it was the one that, I mean, and Robert kind of said this, it was the one that made you kind of scratch your head a little bit about him fulfilling the prophecy of, kind of falling victim to, him by doing the actions that he did. He kind of set in motion everything that he knew that was there to be his destiny. But I thought that was a really weak visual to end on that. Other than that, I thought everything was perfectly placed. This had to be the first episode of the series. The duel had to be. Yeah. Visually, stylistically, it was everything that we expected. Plus, we had gotten teased with that amazing Mary Poppins lightsaber, and they didn't wait. They gave it to us right away, right out the bat.
I don't think we heard from Alex on this one, and he said it was his favorite. I'd love to hear from Alex.
Yeah. I loved it, and kind of echoing all the things you said, but the antagonist was just so cool. And again, when I was buzzing through IMDb to find out that Lucy Liu is the one who's doing the voice of it, was like, oh, that is so cool. And then when she takes her robe off and her hair is just huge, I was like, oh, this is just so cool. Like, this is so out there. And then when they were fighting on the log, and the music was like a mixture of it was like a new Duel of the Fates that added in anime chanting, because that same sort of stuff shows up whenever the villain shows up, and it's like, ah. And so them fighting, but then her using the Force to move the log to block
cool.
Waterfall. You talked about too, of like cool new ways of using the Force. I thought that was fantastic. And yeah, I guess same in the villain category. I don't think he's a Sith in that sense, where, we're not going to put a label on it. Like, I don't think he calls himself a Sith or ever thought he was one, but he probably uses other areas of the Force that a Sith would use in order to live a peaceful life, is kind of how I saw it. Because he's just wandering around. He has a droid that he clearly cares for, and no Sith or bad guy would ever care about a droid. So I liked that, though. And I like that he never really joined in right away, and he kind of walks slow everywhere. But we forgot to mention too, I love the little kid that runs the town. And I just love that, he's so brave and he stands up, and then the town kind of can take care of themselves. And Rob, we had talked about that at one point too, of like, in the Kurosawa movies, you need the Ronin to show up to protect the town. And I like that they didn't really need him. They only needed him once, did she have a name?
I don't remember.
I don't recall.
Yeah.
They did a cutaway. I don't know if you guys noticed it. They did a cutaway when they asked how she was the chief. And they did the cutaway of the dead body in in the one house.
I thought he was
Yeah,
just.
and I'll pose that. I thought it was just that he was sick.
Yeah, it was sick. Yeah, it was his
But
dad.
I
His
couldn't
dad
tell
was
if they were
sick.
showing him dead or not. But I really liked that. I was like, okay, cool. So he's stepping in for his dad, but these guys are making fun of him. Like, again, classic anime of they're underestimating him and they're going to pay the price for it, and they do.
She is only known as the bandit leader. She does not
The
have
bandit leader. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, and her whole costume, the getup was just frightening and then totally cool.
for Cruella hair.
This is one narrative that, again, if they decide to bring back more of that story, I would be all in for it. I would love to see Sith Hunter extraordinaire have more adventures, even in the Take on Me, Bryan style of animation.
I would obviously still watch it.
So
I'd thought too, it'd be cool because the whole thing is taking place in like feudal Japan, but that in Star Wars canon that like everyone's at a different status in that technology type of area, and so it would be cool to see like in the future him get picked up and taken to Coruscant, but Coruscant be animated like some hyper futuristic sort of kind of Akira Ghost in the Shell type of animation, where he's the old timey samurai in there fighting all that. Like that would just be so cool.
Yeah. Now this one was one of my favorites. I again would like to see this one continue. I know that I'm going to be the only one to say this, probably of the second episode, but episode 2, which was Tatooine Rhapsody, is one of low-key my favorite episodes, and like let the collective come out right now. So Tatooine Rhapsody to me was fun. It was light. Right after the very stylistic and heavy duel, this one was a little bit more jocular. It had a lot more light and airy components to it. There was some humor to it. But it's about a band with big dreams, and they have to save one of their bandmates from the scourge of the galactic underworld while trying to elude one of the greatest bounty hunters also in the galaxy. I like the way it started, where he gets discovered by a descendant of the Hutts or one of the Hutt clan. And unlike the rest of the Hutts, his crime is he doesn't want to accept his place in the galaxy. He just wants to jam, man. He just wants to slap a de bass. And so because of that, Jabba the Hutt employs Boba Fett to like go and bring him back and then put him on execution for basically rejecting his family lineage. And then the band assembles to like save him. Robert was saying this didn't work for him. In the truest sense, he didn't you just didn't feel Boba, right? What was it about this episode that just didn't work for you?
I thought it was kind of corny. I mean,
It was.
I see what you're talking about, like with the whatever his name is, the Hutt, and it's the same thing with that Jedi kid. He flees Order 66.
Yeah, he's neglecting his Jedi responsibilities.
Right. They'd rather be in a band than be a Jedi. He like flees Order 66, and he doesn't even try. The only time he tries is when they try to take his buddy back. I did like the animation style. I like the that chibi style kind of animation. I just didn't like the story so much. It looked nice. It looked cool. I just couldn't.
Did you see animated Bib Fortuna? I could have lived the rest of my life without seeing that.
Well, dude, he looked better than he did in the Book of Boba Fett.
Big Fortuna.
So this is before he started packing on the pounds, at least. But his eyes were haunt my dreams.
He was terrifying. Yeah, like the only thing I laughed at this one was Jabba just patting his tail to the music. That was funny. But Robert said it was corny. It just didn't work for me. I love Tamora Morrison. I need that voice anywhere I can get it, but it just didn't work for me.
That was the only part that worked was Boba Fett. That was it.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt flexing the pipes.
I didn't even know it was him.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was him either.
No.
Yeah.
I knew it was Bobby Moynihan as Geezer, which, again, not a very Star Wars-y name.
Geezer the Hutt?
Geezer the Hutt.
Man, that bass is pretty epic.
They're a good band.
Yeah.
I also thought it was flashing back in time and not forward in time. Like, it would have made a lot more sense that the lead singer becomes a Jedi, kind of like Justin Timberlake. He leaves NSYNC and then becomes the Jedi. But no, it flashed forward. It just didn't work for me.
So am I the only one that really liked this episode?
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. I mean, but I didn't like it either.
It was
my least favorite of all of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
It wasn't my least favorite. I thought there were parts that were fun. I think the things that I liked were the things that felt like real Star Wars. Like most of these episodes did not bring in pre-existing characters or settings. And so I think what I liked about this was seeing familiar characters and familiar settings in this. Like I got a kick out of seeing the concert at Bunta Eve. I was like, now that's pod racing. Like that was fun. But and you know, Bib Fortuna and seeing Boba and Jabba, like I thought that was fun. But you know, I think I agree with and the corniness didn't bother me either. I think I agree with the rest of the guys though that the story just didn't do anything for me. And then when it was like they're gonna rock and you expect they're gonna be awesome, and then the song is kind of lame.
It's like an anime song though. That's like how the songs are in the anime shows.
Yeah, but like standard K-pop is better than that. Like it was like
well, this was like a what if episode. What if Jabba the Hutt became a Patreon of a band?
Yeah,
you know? That's what this was. That's what. Since I'm the only one also that liked it, guys, let's move on and get to stuff that's got a lot more meat for the panel. I just wanted to say I did enjoy Tatooine Rhapsody. I'm gonna give it props, but let's not waste good time on an episode that a lot of us did not really dig, because many of us did dig episode 3, which was the twins. Twins born of the dark side clash atop a massive Star Destroyer. End of story. Synopsis.
Yeah, no.
Did everybody, I assume, watch this in the English dub? Nobody watched the Japanese version with the subtitles. We all watched the English dub.
Yes.
Okay. I loved having Barney Stinson live out his Star Wars dreams of Neil Patrick Harris being this rogue Sith Lord or whatever they were, and Allison Brie was. These two voice castings were my favorite of the entire show. I really, really enjoyed this one. Like Robert said it earlier, like they're in space without helmets, and it just is what it is.
Yeah.
But the twin Star Destroyer with that cannon in between, just all of that visually was really, really cool. I don't know how our duo can fly the X-Wing upside down while he can just stay cling to it, and I don't care. I thought it was really cool. It had really cool kyber crystal stuff in it. The fact that we got the expanding lightsaber that could cut through the other lightsaber that she had coming out of her super armor, like I was all for it, man. I thought it was awesome.
She grew a few arms. Yeah, and she grew a few arms in the middle of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like this one really worked for me. It was the perfect blend of the anime and the Star Wars for me, where it was just kooky enough, and I just didn't care. I just wanted to see cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. This was like I was saying, Shonen Jump, One Punch Man, ridiculous fights. But unlike other animes, it didn't take forever. Like it didn't drag on like 6 episodes in one fight. So that was cool.
Which is why the timing of all these episodes was good. It was 12 to 18 minutes, get in, get it done, and you're done.
Yeah. I really like too as the episode opens up, and I was trying to catch it. Almost all the episodes start like Star Wars does in the stars, and then kind of pans down. And this was one of the few ones where it was, but you immediately see the black shadow of the Star Destroyer. And I forgot even on my second viewing, but it's like the second destroyer's there, and they've got the connector. And I was like, oh, that's because it's the twins. And then when the next shot is inside, and it's two similar hallways connected to each other. And I was like, oh, like the duality within this episode was just so cool to see. But it really felt like another what if episode of what if Luke and Leia, or I guess what if Padme had been manipulated by the Emperor prior to having her kids, kind of the same way that, you know, in Charles Soule's run, he kind of worked with Shmi in that sense. But like, what if Luke and Leia were in the dark side? And I thought that was cool. I didn't realize it till the end, but I'm like, oh, that's Luke and Leia. Like they're twins and they're lightsabers. So that whole bit was just amazing.
Yeah.
Wasn't the ship called the Gemini too?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Mike, any commentary that you have on the twins, or anything that just again stood out to you, what you liked about it? Or
no, I don't want to take too much time from the panel. I think I'm the minority on this one, that like I just wasn't feeling this one. I love Allison Brie. I found her performance to be really irritating throughout this, and I really like her. I had a tough time connecting with this one, so I'll leave it at that.
She Britted it.
It was
Come to me, kyber crystal.
It was her blonde hair. That's all that it was.
So, guys, here's my only comment on the twins. But like Brian said, it was so like over the top and crazy. It was the equivalent of jumping the shark with force powers.
It
I-
took me the third time I watched it to have a positive opinion. I'm going to be honest.
You can't explain how all of a sudden, like, he has a lightsaber the size of like a Death Star beam, and he's blasting off into hyperspace while holding on to the hull. Then
Admiral Holdo, baby.
I mean, it was crazy. I wouldn't even say, like, you can't even consider this and put it in with any league with anything else, because the stuff that was happening in this episode was clearly so outside of anything canonical that it was crazy.
Yeah.
But I somehow still enjoyed it. Mike is very valid. Upon the third watch of this one, Allison Brie did start to grate a little bit. But again, I did geek out at the fact that Neil Patrick Harris got to live out his Star Wars dreams. And I thought it was really cool. I would not say no to a continuation of this story either. That I like the way it's set up for a potential return if there's another season of Visions. So good stuff. All right, guys. Episode 4 was weird to me. Episode 4 is The Village Bride. A Jedi on the run finds refuge in a remote village, which is now under threat, forcing her to come to terms with her own path and destiny and accept her future. This was for me prima nocta, Jedi style. I know that the guy wasn't like gonna take her and do awful things, but it smacked of the scene from Braveheart when they roll up on William Wallace's wife and they're like, "All right, we're gonna take you,"
Right.
and he's like, "I'm having none of it," and they started the ruckus. I got Braveheart vibes. Mike, why don't you start off with The Village Bride?
Yeah, I'm with you. And then again, I think I got distracted by things. I just think I needed to just say, look, if things aren't going to make sense, it's not quite Star Wars, and it's not quite anime. It's in the middle. I think the bride saying, I'm going to take one for the team, and her flipping out that her sister wanted to save her. I was like, can't we all just get along here? Like, come on. Like, it's just so their relationship was so frustrating to me that I had a tough time rooting for anybody other than obviously, take down the bad guys.
Yeah. Helmet Man. Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
just going to fling my helmet off the mountain, have it land.
Then he gets it back.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got the exact same helmet back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
You know,
crazy
funny-
to me.
It's funny too, and I get the cultural significance of being like, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the village. But when you're going on and on being like, I'm going to take the place of my grandfather, who he could be dead in 10 years, we don't know, or 5 years, and she's, young, she can live, like, why not just take the grandfather? If they only want one person, give them that one. Like, go ahead, we're good. Like,
Why
is
didn't the bad guys?
grandfather?
Yeah, well, and why didn't the bad guys, like, they could have also just killed Grandpa? Like, what? This is,
Right.
why are they negotiating with terrorists at all?
Yeah.
Dormammu, I have come to bargain.
Yeah. But her lightsaber was sick, and
Her lightsaber was my
ending
favorite
piece when she
lightsaber.
says, "I am a Jedi," and just I was like, is she gonna be able to do it? And then boom, she's there, cuts his hand off right away. I was like, oh yes. So that and the ending was worth the beginning.
That was cool.
She's
That's
got the
true. That was
Jedi.
very cool.
She's got the Jedi PF flyers. Yeah, like I loved that lightsaber so much. That was my favorite lightsaber from the show by a lot. The
Galaxy's
yellow,
Edge. Yeah, Galaxy's Edge. If you're listening, please make that lightsaber.
Yeah.
100%.
I will
It's
pay for
a
it.
dark saber, basically. I was all about it.
Robert, any commentary on episode 4 on The Village Bride?
I just like the end, just like what Brian was talking about. It drug on too long. It's just like a lot of anime shorts. If you guys watch like Gotham Knight or Animatrix, it just went on too long, and you're just like, okay, this is boring. You just like get on with it. And
The beginning was awkward. Yeah, the beginning was really awkward.
Mhm.
I
So,
didn't really I didn't understand or see how the beginning fit with the
Right.
greater narrative of the story, where they were doing, I don't know what they were doing on the planet, but they had like they activated some kind of like power within the planet
Mhm.
itself, and like the blue orb engulfed the planet, and then all of a sudden it was like, we're at a wedding. I'm like,
yeah,
what is
it had nothing to do with like you think it'd be something like some like Gaia moment or something like that, but it wasn't that at all.
yeah, it was
Walker
weird.
has memory.
Yeah, it was awkward. it felt like it was almost like two different stories or two different narratives than were crammed into one. And like I said, then the weird thing for me was then I just got like the prima nocta vibes from Braveheart, where we have a wedding ceremony, but there's all the sadness surrounding the ceremony because she's going to be taken away the next day. And I'm like, what's going on here? But then the end really did redeem it. This is one that I will fast forward through 3/4 of it just to see
Just to
the
see
bad
that
guys.
end. Yep.
Yeah, just to see the bad guys roll up in that fight.
Mhm.
I got to thank Robert for validating that it's definitely just because I don't like the style of anime that I'm probably not digging some of these, because I was like, why am I so bored through most of these? And it's like, if that's the style, then they nailed it, and they nailed it good. And I'm just gonna go sit back in the corner like those like the folks with their little hookah pipes on Tatooine and mind my business.
One last thing about this one is I did really like seeing a good overhead shot of another type of Corellian starfighter. I thought that ship was really, really cool. It was kind of sad to see it go up in flames.
That thing went up like a tinderbox.
Yeah, well, I mean,
helmet.
You kill the mothership and you take them all out. So
this is Dwayne saying his son Brady really likes Visions, but he's also very huge on anime.
Yeah, see,
and
that's Brian's.
That's to Brian's point. If you're a fan of anime, I really think that this was right up your alley. You have to be predisposed to like anime. Alex said there's a lot of tropes that are in this series that pay homage to and harken back to these studios and what they've already done. So if you like anime, you will be predisposed to like Visions. But gentlemen, I think
the next episode,
if
you don't like anime, you're gonna like.
I was just gonna. You took the words right out of my mouth. That episode 5, you don't have to like anime to enjoy it. The Ninth Jedi, in my opinion, was auditioning for more episodes. If there was a pilot that would emerge from Visions, to me, clearly, I think the Ninth Jedi is auditioning for Lucasfilm to say, make more of this story. It was the most complete story. It was the one that had the most cohesive narrative. It was the one that had the most complexity to it. The daughter of a lightsaber smith is pursued by dark forces on her mission to deliver lightsabers to the last Jedi in the galaxy who are trying to reform and create another Jedi Council. Just really quick before I kick it to you guys, the action, again, the story was really cohesive. I was invested in this. It had nice surprises, and you can talk about some of the surprises if you will. But Brian alluded to this before too. We got just a lot of great things coming from the kyber crystals and the lightsabers and force powers. Even Homeboy that was like rocking the Sith attitude, and then like all the other Sith fade away, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I lost my mind there for a minute. He just like deactivates his blades, like, my bad.
It went purple though. I mean, in his defense, he kind of showed visually that he was changing sides.
My bad, y'all.
What I took that as was like they planted him in with them, and he had kind of been investigating on behalf of the Margrave that because he kind of goes into that backstory too. But yeah, that was. I mean, everything about this was just so cool, and that really got into the Kyber lore in a sense, because I know I had thought about it for a minute. We mentioned it here of like, well, you can't just get a red lightsaber, like you have to bleed the crystal. But then it's like, oh yeah, but remember what he said, like he modified these Kyber crystals to do that, and so that idea was so cool to me. Like I would love to see that in a movie, and the fact that the little girl, she goes from the clear when it turns to green, like you get the goosebumps, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is. But then same thing when all of the lightsabers go red, you're like, oh no, and just the color schemes with that, like no words are said, no words are needed, and so much is conveyed through just color.
Yeah, well, and you're just like the rest of the quote unquote Jedi throughout the episode. The Margrave looks like a bad dude. Like you don't expect the Margrave to be who the Margrave turns out to be. Turns out Kara's known him her entire life. Simu Liu, like Shang-Chi, I can't remember her dad's name, but the Sabersmith has known him throughout their life, and you just assume that they don't know what they're doing. It turns out he's probably the most capable Sabersmith definitely left in the galaxy for sure. But when all those lightsabers turn on and they're all red, and you're like, oh, this is not good. And then you've got Ethan, the main guy that shows up at the beginning. Like the story just played out so perfectly. They play the Margrave's message so you understand what's going on. Just the way the episode moves, mining the kyber crystals from space. It was all just really cool. It's a world I would love to see a whole show take place.
Did you get any vibes of Pokemon, the first movie, of them going into Mewtwo's place and like not knowing who the leader is, and him being there the whole time?
My wife said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Oh.
Robert, you said you loved this episode.
Yeah.
What was it that stood out to you?
Just the whole concept, like being on a planet where it looks like, like Saturn. So it looks like the moon was probably where you had kyber crystals and they all got crushed and smashed into the orbit. So like they're like shooting like fishing lines out there and just grabbing kyber crystals out of orbit. It's pretty cool. All the hilts that he made, the Sabersmith made. Like Production IG is probably my favorite studio as far as anime goes, because they make the show called Ghost in the Shell, standalone complex. And the animation style is really good. It's like the merging of 2D and 3D, like the speeder chase. It was amazing.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, top notch.
That speeder chase was I was invested in that, and the animation style and the way it was shot and the angles from which they animated that was just, it was gorgeous. It was really gorgeous.
This one actually told a real story. Like I think I was a little annoyed at the end when it was definitely left so open-ended. I really wanted it to have some closure, but this one by far just had the best storytelling. It did the best job of creating tension within the chase. It did the best job of creating mystery of who these characters were. It did the best job of like, who cares if they dumped, a minute and a half of exposition on you at the beginning? After that, you were totally in. And, this is Star Wars, where this is a film that starts with reading, right? So, Cinema Sins #1, ding, reading. Like I thought that this was the one that was bold enough to say, you know what, we're going to create our own lore here, and we're going to take you in on it, and we're going to actually build some tension around what's going on. And it worked. I thought it was super, super cool.
To that point, though, and Alex just said this, we were invested in this, that when her blade goes from clear to green, we were invested in her. In only 10 minutes time, we were rooting for her. And I think a lot of that was because the writing was so strong with this episode. Whereas some of these other episodes focused more on the style and just kind of setting up an homage or a vibe. This one was more concerned with, let's get the audience invested in this story. Let's get them invested in these characters. She had that wonderful goodbye with her father, who was the Sabersmith. There were elements that then got you invested in her narrative specifically, but then also in the Margraves, also in these other characters, these peripheral characters. This was the one that I said, Lucasfilm, please, I need more of this story. I don't care if it's in a second season of Visions. I'm hoping it's in something more than that.
It's also the longest episode too.
It was
22 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say. So this one unanimously was, I think, and Brian kind of said this before, purposefully put in the middle of the season, that if you had lost your way with the Tatooine Rhapsody, I was still in by Tatooine Rhapsody. I started to just question what I was watching a little bit with the Village Bride. And then 5 came and I'm like, and I'm back.
Right.
And I'm back. So, all right, gentlemen, Brian's clear favorite, excuse me as I cough. Episode 6, TOB1, Pinocchio in space, a cybernetic boy dreams of becoming a Jedi and discovers the incredible truth about his creator. Brian, go ahead, man. You have the floor.
I will cede. I will take Ruby's lead. I didn't care for the animation. I didn't like Geppetto or whatever his name was.
Mega Man.
Yeah, Dr. Wily.
The same
That's
thing.
what he looked like.
Yeah, he did look like Mega Man. It just Pinocchio Obi-Wan Kenobi, man. Like it's really what it was. I didn't care for it. Going back to the 9th Jedi, I also think 4-9s was my favorite droid within all of these episodes too. So that was a big part of it. I loved the space pirate pilot that took him to space, and he's the only one that could. That one did droids well. TOB1, it just did not work for me, and that's all I will say.
Gentlemen, anyone who would like to jump in? I don't have much kind to say about TOB1. If there's an episode that I have skipped, I've watched it twice, but that's it. I'm done. I watched it a second time to think, was I just being cruel to this? And then I watched it the second time. I was like, nope, I'm not.
How did I not see the Mega Man comparison?
Mega Man.
Perfect.
I loved this episode.
Oh
Really?
no!
Yeah,
All right, man, go ahead. You have
when
the
it started out, it was a little corny, but I saw it for what it was. I was like, okay, here's another anime of, you're getting the Mega Man, you're getting the kid who wants to be a real boy. So I didn't even catch the Pinocchio in it. It was over my head, I guess. But, as it's getting there was a part where I will say it jumped a lot in time and didn't tell you. And so you had to figure it out, where it was like, he says, okay, you've got to go hunting for a kyber crystal. And then the next scene is him, finding that ship. And it was like, wait, what? But by the end of it, I don't know what came over me. But when he is fighting the Sith, I got really emotional when I was watching it, because he's a droid. And this is the first droid that we've ever seen become a Jedi. And so cool to think that even a droid could be strong in the Force. We get to see him use Force powers. And again, those classic anime tropes of him never giving up and continuing to fight. But then the droids are all helping him. And when they start dying, he freaks out. But when when it's over and all the droids come over the hill and he gives the little okay sign that he's alive, I just started I love that whole bit of it. And the fact that he was carrying on the professor's legacy of, basically seeding planets to make them be alive again, I thought was so cool. So there was a lot about it where I was like, it didn't make sense to me why I liked it, but there's just something about it emotionally that I just thought was so cute and powerful.
Listen, bro, I can't even hate that, because here I was a few episodes ago dying on the hill of Tatooine Rhapsody.
Right, yeah.
And you guys were like, yo, that was corny. I'm like, it was, but I loved it. And I don't know why I loved it, but I loved it.
The fight was so good. The lightsaber fight was awesome when he's fighting. And then he gets his hand stabbed through it and has to rip his whole arm off. That probably hurt a little bit, even though he's a droid. Or maybe it didn't. I don't know. But I thought it was really cool.
All right, man.
It's cute.
Anybody else?
Yeah, this is like what Alex was saying about the anime trope. This is like a big anime trope as far as like I guess like what Brian was saying, like Pinocchio. You got like Astro Boy and Mega Man, stuff like that. So yeah.
Almost immediately when I saw it, I was like, "This is Mega Man."
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like Ruby kind of liked this one.
It was cute. I liked it more than others.
Wow.
Not my. Yeah, I liked it better than the twins.
All right.
I mean, if we're talking about episodes that go on a big stretch, I liked it more than the twins. Liked it more than the Village Bride.
That's a hot take.
Feeling hot.
Yeah, I'll take a journey of enchantment and wonder with Space Geppetto.
Also, I feel like a kid would love this. This would be like their favorite episode.
Yeah, that's why I said it could be developed into a series. Like when you were asking, I think kids would like this.
Yeah.
Here's a take, and I think everyone would agree. I will take this infinitely over droids, over Star Wars droids. I will take this narrative any day.
Oh yeah.
So and the droid based episodes that we got from Clone Wars, Brian's already gotten that rant of mine that whenever it was a droids based episode over in the Clone Wars, I was like, I'm out straight away. I would go work in the kitchen or do something while all that nonsense was going on. And I'm like, are we going to get back to Anakin and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan soon? Because I could care less what's going on in the side quest with R2-D2 and these other astromechs right now.
How dare you treat R2-D2 like that?
I'm sorry, man. I love me some R2, but that was some nonsense.
Yeah.
That's all.
I think it's also weird, trying to, and I think thinking about some of the droids that I'm a fan of, and I know that Brian is. I think part of one of the reasons it's hard to wrap your head around cutesy D2 here is because most of the droids in the Star Wars universe, they're not cute. Even BB-8 has got attitude. Even he's probably he and Dio are the cutest droids probably in the live action, and they're a little prickly, right? R2 that R2 would flip off another robot.
I think he does with regularity. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not messing around, and yeah.
BD1 from Jedi Fallen Order is the only droid I would put in the cute category. But BD1's a cool droid, but he doesn't have force powers. It just I can see what Alex is saying. It just isn't for me.
Yeah,
that's fair.
All right, gentlemen. So if the Ninth Jedi was my one, this next episode was my 1A, which is episode 7, The Elder. It's about a Jedi and a Padawan who track dark forces to a small village located on the Outer Rim, only to stumble upon an ancient and long forgotten foe. I'm just going to say David Harbour for Jedi Master in something, anything. David Harbour, period.
David Harbour is a national treasure.
He really is a national treasure. He was so like chill, cool, calm, and collected. I feel like he was the Jedi on Xanax or something. That he popped some Xannies and was floating around the galaxy and was just so monotone.
Yeah, that's another like popular anime trope is to have like the sensei or the Ronin guy. He's just like so cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, that's like Kakashi from Naruto.
Yeah, he just walks around.
The only time he actually cared was then when he reached out into the Force and felt his Padawan like basically fall. It was the only time that you got, and he didn't even go to a 10. He went to like a 4. He was like at a 0.2 the whole time, barely even functioning. And he gets struck down and he was like, I have to go.
Dan, get out of there.
So I liked this one. The Sith who didn't care about taking over the galaxy in as much as he was just a bad dude that was wandering around the universe to find a good fight.
Mm-hmm.
He was scary. And the way they drew him gave me nightmares. I was like, ooh, this is like Big Trouble in Little China right here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this dude is straight out of Big Trouble in Little China. He's going to start shooting lightning out of his eyes. I was like, this is hot. I love it.
Right.
But that episode was great. Again, I felt like this story, much like The Ninth Jedi, had a more complete narrative for me. And that I felt like it had a beginning, a middle, and then even though it wasn't resolved at the end, this one really set up for we can write more of these, but if we never did again, you would be fully satisfied with what we presented.
Well, dude, I think you called it straight on there. The guy who did the voice for the old Sith, that's Lopan from Big Trouble in Little China.
I knew it. No, I didn't know it, but that's cool.
Yeah, no, yeah, that is Lopan.
That's amazing. Now I'm geeking out even more about how much I love that episode.
Jack Burton likes this episode.
Yeah, Big Trouble in Little China is one of my guilty pleasure 80 movies. I love it.
Oh, absolutely.
Nice. Amazing. Gentlemen, your thoughts and opinions on The Elder. Alex, what did you think?
It wasn't one of my favorites. I don't know if that's a hot take, and I think it was because of, and I need to watch it a few more times, I know, but I wasn't a fan of, I didn't even know it was David Harbour, but I was like, why is this guy so monotone? And I now see that, and I think I need to watch it in that lens that like, okay, he's just the super Zen Jedi. Right. But I think it was more so some of the dialogue choices that they say. Like if you go back, I don't know if you may know because you've probably seen it a ton of times, but the last line of the episode, I was like, what? Like that's how you're going to end it, on saying something? It wasn't even like a cool line, but the fight was so good. And that I mean, saved it. Like I said, I loved all of these episodes, but this one's kind of probably in the middle for me. I just love that whole anime bit, like you said, of I'm just looking for a fight. I just want to fight the strongest person. I love when he said, I wish I could have found you when I was younger. And it wasn't even that he was saying, I think I could beat you. It was just so that I could fight you at more of my power. And to see that and then see him just get taken out. And even when he's fighting the kid and he's like, I'm just testing the waters with you, which is just how they do it in the anime fights. It's always, I'll only show you a little bit. But the fight was so good. And then what he like sabotages his own ship at the end too, right? He blows it up.
Yeah.
He was crazy in a great way.
As much as I enjoyed this episode, if it never continued, I'd be completely fine. Like I'm dying for more in the Ninth Jedi Galaxy. I am done with these 13 minutes, and I think it's what I needed. Like I liked it, but I don't care if it ever continues.
So that's like probably a hot take then on my part, because this was like number one almost.
Well, I'm with you. I'm with you, Mark. I may even like this one more than Ninth Jedi because it has closure. I don't need to see that Jedi and Padawan again. I love that it's a very specific moment in time with 3 very well drawn characters.
Yeah.
And I love David Harbour's, no drama Jedi Master. I mean, I think he's right out of the Qui-Gon Jinn School of Jedi.
Yep.
Like Qui-Gon never gets above a 2, right?
Yeah.
Like if we're gonna pick on Harbor for getting up to a 4, like Qui-Gon never gets above a 2, no matter how much anybody
fair.
messes with him. Like,
That's fair. He did, but only when he got stabbed, and he even went up to an 8 at that point.
well,
he
and
died, he died pretty
even
chill.
yeah, no, he dies very chill. It's not even an impassioned plea. It's just train the boy. Like,
Yeah.
But that's probably why he had a green lightsaber too, is that he's just part of that whole scion of Jedis that is very chill and doesn't worry about that sort of stuff.
and
Yep.
Luke falls into that too. Luke's got the green saber, and Luke, he's monotone Jones when he comes and picks up the child. So I think that there's definitely a kind of a Zen Buddhist calm.
Bro,
The universe is what
and
it
Luke
is.
is very zen when he takes on Jabba's henchman.
Oh yeah, Jabba, this is your last chance. Like, and it's just very straightforward. I loved this one. I loved everything about it.
Bri?
I'm good. I've said what I've needed to say. I think Robert hasn't given his thoughts on this one yet.
All right.
This one was cool. It gave me like some Ninja Scroll vibes, and I know Brian, you and Alex read Light of the Jedi. It kind of reminded me of Greystorm and his Padawan,
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was cool. I like the elder, like I was saying earlier, like just like he's a dark force user or a Sith, just roaming around for a good fight. He's not like trying to take over anything. He's just
He's what Kylo Ren wanted to be for the first little while.
Yeah. So, guys, Lapa and Ocho, which is episode 8. I'm not going to say much about this one, other than this one, and probably the last left me the most unaffected. I did watch them. While I didn't not enjoy them, I just didn't get invested in any way whatsoever in them. Not her being like a oversized rabbit wasn't what didn't do it for me. I didn't get this narrative, but it's, basically a family is torn apart when the Empire rolls into town, and then family members are forced to choose sides, and it sets, sister against sister and daughter against father. It was intriguing. I can't tell you why it didn't pull me in, but I am open to the panel convincing me why I'm missing the boat on La Pinocho. So whoever would love to jump in, Robert, why don't you go first on this one? Because we haven't really thrown it to you first in a lot of them.
I mean, it was cool. It gave me like some Studio Ghibli vibes, like you were saying, like it's more of a heartfelt story. But I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. It was fine. I mean, the animation was great, and this one kind of had some closure because it was just about a family being torn apart to me.
Yeah.
So that's all it was. It like it starts off with what they find her in the street or whatever, and they like have this bond over the years, and that's pretty much it.
I just find it very interesting, the family being torn apart, because you can see this happening as the Empire takes over the galaxy for years and years of the one family member thinking they know better for the rest of the family and kind of selling out the rest of them to basically save the family. It's very similar to the Bride one from that aspect of trying to do what's right by the family, just in the opposite way. I think of this episode, I didn't love all of it from start to finish, but I think some of the most powerful emotional stuff is when Ocho joins the Empire, cuts off her braid, and everything there. I thought that was all really well done. The Empire guy was an absolute tool, and like that was the whole point of that character. But Ocho, and when she confronts her dad, and we talked about how much the swords are revered in Japanese culture, when she finds out that Lop has the saber, like, and how deep that cuts her. I thought some of that was some of the most emotional stuff that came out of this show. Even though I didn't love this episode from start to finish, I thought Ocho's arc specifically was really, really interesting.
Yeah, I loved this episode too. Maybe I can try to convince you. I thought this episode was more about family, and had no, you could take all the Jedi stuff out of it, and I just thought it was really cool that they find this rabbit or this girl, and she's now part of the family. And watching it, knowing the ending now from like a second viewing, they're really nice to her, and Ocho is really nice to her, and she's saying like, you're going to be a part of this family, and the dad doesn't want anything to do with her. He's like, no, you've disgraced me, and now I have to bring her as part of this family. And so then you get to that spot where the Empire shows up, and she's arguing for the Empire. And I loved that because he's the old man that is set in his ways, but she's arguing for a villain, and you don't see that often. But at the same time, she keeps saying there, well, as the future head of the household, and as the, I'm going to be the future heir of this family, and then to see him choose Locke over her. And when he says, I feel like I've spent a lot of time ignoring you and minimizing you, and I'm really sorry about that. That was what was meant the most to me in this episode, more so than the lightsaber fight. But the fight was still really cool too. And I wonder, Mark, if it's part. I saw a review. Someone had said that the episodes kind of start blending together. Yeah. And if you get to that point where you say, hey, I'm going to binge watch all of these, and you get to that point, I could see you being like, this isn't really doing it for me, because you've seen the lightsaber fight, the cool lightsaber fight. I mean, there's cool shots. There's that shot where Ocho's like this in the air, and it was like, oh my God, that's so cool. But it did kind of feel repetitive from the others, and that's why I clung to the family aspect of it more, because that was just so cool to see him turn around, and the whole ceremony was cool of the symbols coming out on the ground and all of that. Like, I loved that piece. It reminded me of Akira.
And I think that's a great recommendation, and I'm going to try to be fair to it. So I think I'm going to just watch it as a standalone. I haven't done that. I've always had 2 or 3 that preceded it, and that was always the last one that was there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to be fair to it and do that one more time and just have it stand on its own, by its own style and its own merits, rather than try to watch it when it's blending in with everything else. Because that's fair.
Yeah, I really like this one too. I think this is one of my top faves. Again, it felt like it had the most story to it and the most stakes to it. I thought Ocho was annoying as can be at the beginning of it, but by the end, when she's actually a villain, it worked. I love the ceremony that you were talking about, where he's explaining the history of the saber within the family, and it had kind of a whole Kill Bill Hattori Hanzo vibe going on as it's handed over. I thought the duel was great, and I could feel like that there was a real relationship between the two sisters. There was something much more than I want to take over the galaxy versus I don't want to take over the galaxy that was going on in the twins. This felt like I'm fighting for the environment that's being pillaged. I liked the environmental message that came through in the episode. I liked that it had the backdrop of, I think it was mentioned a little while ago, the whole empire coming in, and it's not just the impact of the empire on a planet, but the impact of the empire on a family and the relationship of community and family together through it. And sorry, guys, it's a Jedi bunny. It's cool. It's a Jedi. Like, we're ignoring the obvious here. Like, that was the thing that when the trailers first came out, I just like, a Jedi can be a rabbit. Yes,
I like it.
Makes more sense than Yoda.
It does. It really does. Like, that didn't bother me as much as, again, Alex gave me a nice tip. I think I'm going to take him up on that and just watch this episode the next time I do it. Alex, the other episode I think I was unfair to because it maybe blended in was the series or the season finale, episode 9. Akakiri
bless you.
Blended in to me, in that I think because that was always at the tail end of a binge, it started to really just blend into the other episodes. It was a weird, so here's my only critique of that one too. It was a very weird end, and I said this, to the season. I thought they would have ended with something with a stronger visual than they did. The episode itself had a cool premise. So this Jedi revisits a planet that you get through this. It was his forbidden love, that they had a romantic connection. He falls prone to these visions of a future that can happen to him. And then he succumbs to his worst nightmare, essentially at the end, and in his blind rage strikes down the woman that he loves, and then has to agree to a devil's bargain to become a Sith apprentice and an acolyte in order to save her. This was cool to me to go back to and connect and circle all the way around, of them again connecting concepts of the Force that we have not seen. Darth Sidious promised Anakin that this was a power that was possible for the Sith. We now see it fulfilled, even though it's not canon. We see that it is in fact true that 2 Sith using their power together, or 2 dark Force users, can bring someone back from the dead. But there's a price that needed to be paid in order for that to happen. So that was really fascinating to me. But How did this episode work? Was it a strong finale? Where do you place this episode in the grand scheme of things? Or was this like your top episode? Alex, was this it for you?
No, this was at the bottom of my list. I would put it right around with Tatooine Rhapsody. I don't know which one of those I liked more, but even when I watched it a second time, I had to rewind a few spots because I was like, "Wait, what just happened?" When he goes to strike her down from the vision that he had, for some reason I thought that they moved to something else, and it was like, oh, it was just while he was knocked out for a minute
Yeah.
that he got that vision, and then he wakes up and has to fight them. But yeah, overall, it's like there really wasn't that much of a lightsaber fight when you compare it to the other episodes. Like this was a very weak lightsaber fight. The animation as well, I would say, is probably the weakest of all of the episodes. Just because there was some question, the way the faces looked and the wide shots and all of that. I don't know. There was really nothing that I loved about this one. But the concept was cool. Like you said, I loved the idea of him having to make that devil's bargain, essentially a different Anakin Skywalker. But yeah, I don't even have much to say on it because besides that, there wasn't really much to say for it.
Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing I liked most about it was that it was really, I mean, I guess except for the twins with Luke and Leia, it was one of the only episodes that had any real parallels to the actual Star Wars lore.
Yeah.
So it was nice to see, okay, I'm going to take a very prominent theme from the saga and create my own narrative take on it. And that being, how far am I willing to go? What bargain am I willing to make in order to save the person I love? And so I thought that one aspect and the how it echoed and where it didn't echo with Anakin and Padme and the Emperor was really cool. But other than that, certainly not among my faves. I just thought that the kind of thematic shout out was a really nice twist.
Yeah. Brian, what were your thoughts on Akira?
Didn't care for the color palette. Didn't really care for much in this one either. It fizzled out for the show. I think it would have been, to Alex's point, if these were weekly releases, I don't think people would have looked forward to them, but I think they would have each been given their own fair shake. Whereas this one, when you compare it to the others, it just didn't have that same feeling. Again, the color palette, the animation struggled in certain places. It was fine. The story concept was interesting, but it's not a story concept that was as original as some of the others.
Them dropping all of these at the same time was really smart. This wouldn't have been good as a weekly drop if they did one short at a time. I like the way they released these.
No, but to Lop and Ocho specifically, when Alex talked about them blending together, had you watched that just on its own, you might have appreciated it just a little bit more, but they could not have gotten 9 weeks of viewing out of this.
No, people would have bailed after the first episode. And truthfully,
after the second.
Yeah, after that second episode, people probably would have bailed, except for me. Robert, anything about this last episode? Did it leave you with a good feeling of what is to come if we're going to get a second season of Visions?
I didn't like this one too much because, like you said, the animation style and the art. I mean, concept is cool. Like see somebody and see what motivates them. Just like Anakin, you got to build on quests and everything just to have an ending. I guess everything doesn't end happily. So it's cool to see like different stories end in different ways. Like it doesn't always have to be a happy ending, or it doesn't always have to be like a good ending. So I guess I can kind of appreciate that, but I'm looking at like the animation style is garbage.
Yeah.
To me, it is.
Great voice actors for this one, though. When I checked it out, you got freaking Snake Eyes as the main character, Henry Golding from Crazy Rich Asians, and then was it Jamie Chung from Lovecraft Country and Disney Channel, and then I don't remember her name, but the lady from Orange Is the New Black, the one big bad villain from like season 2 or something, was the villain in this one, the Sith.
I thought the voice acting in this series was amazing overall. I really enjoyed. If I had to recommend this to people, I would say, again, I think if you're a fan of Star Wars, it's a must watch. I think it will expand your mind. It'll get you to look at the Star Wars universe in a different way. If you're a fan of anime, you'll enjoy the way that anime fits into the Star Wars frame. But Anthony asked us before, gentlemen, if I had to pick a 3 to recommend to him, I would say again, The Duel, The Elder, and The Ninth Jedi are the must watch from this. Those are my 3 strongest takeaways. Go around the horn. Mike, what would your big 3 be?
The Elder, The Ninth Jedi, and then it's a toss-up between The Duel and La Pinocho.
Wow. Okay, La Pinocho making it in there. Brian, what about you, man?
The Duel, The Ninth Jedi, and I'm going to do it to Ruby. I'm sorry, the twins.
Wow. All right.
Yikes.
Alex?
Yeah, I would say The Duel, The Ninth Jedi, and the twins.
Wow. All right. And Robert?
Yeah, that's 3. That's 3 for me. The same.
Wow.
Yep.
It's Anthony. There it is, my friend. Decidedly, those are your 3.
I will say, I think knowing Anthony, he probably would like the Elder more than the twins, though.
I completely agree. If we're tailoring this to Anthony specifically, the Elder would be number 3.
Anthony, join me and David Harbour on the dark side. You can come. We have cookies. Gentlemen, I enjoyed this immensely. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and giving our summation of Visions. I'm hopeful that we get another season, that we get a continuation. I'm also hopeful that we get maybe 1 or 2 of these stories just coming out with their own season. I could see some of these creating a season again. We're imploring you, Lucas Vision, pick up The Ninth Jedi, please, for everyone here on the panel. We speak for everyone when we say we need more of The Ninth Jedi. But thank you so much, gentlemen. Anthony, we gave you your recommendations. Run with them, my friend. And thank you so much. Thanks, Alex, for joining the show. Thank you, Robert, for joining the show. Guys, this was a lot of fun. We enjoy doing this all the time. We love connecting with Star Wars fans. So thank you guys for being a part.
Yeah, appreciate it. This was a blast.
So, and for both my co-Jedis here, as we like to say, as we say goodbye every single week, may the Force be with you always. Take care, everyone.